special episode of the unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetically Black podcast show, Speak to the Mic. I am your illustrious host, Marlon Joseph, and here on this show, ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill. We like to impart education on the Black community, being provided to us by Black men and women of all professions who look like us, and do it in the most unapologetically Black way we know how. Make sure you hit those like, share, subscribe buttons to this episode and previous episodes. Check out previous content. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. Make sure you subscribe to get more notification on what episodes are to come. As I put out more content, your thoughts, input, and just overall support is needed and appreciated in advance. I definitely appreciate you all for rocking with me so far. Here with me today is a very intelligent gentleman and friend of mine by the name of Dr. Richard Cross. He is an educator and he is the founder of Going Beyond Limitations and helping, and also the author of a book entitled Rewriting the Narrative, How We View and How We Raise Our Black Boys Growing Up in Today's Society. I really appreciate this gentleman for a multitude of reasons. When I first met him several years ago, just a quick backstory. He and I met at the gym when we were just talking about just everyday life situations as a Black man, and which is what this episode is primarily focused on, and just the overall words of affirmation that we as Black men need to be much more conscientious about when it comes to pouring into each other and supporting and having much love and respect for each other as Black men, as leaders, as patriarchs of our family and community. So I was very intrigued by the work he has been doing. Obviously, he had moved from Georgia to Missouri, and continuing his efforts to help him pushing that narrative out, or creating that, or recreating the narrative of what it means to be a Black man in this world, let alone just in this country. So, Richard, man, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me, man. It's been a long time since we talked, so I knew I had to reach out, especially given the many efforts that I've been following and seeing you doing over the course of a period of time that you and I have known each other. Thanks again, man, for just being here to talk to me about this.
Man, Mr. Marlon Joseph, man, Marlon, man, I want to say thanks though for giving me the opportunity to share with your audience, and I also want to say, man, thanks for your commitment to making a difference, because the work that needs to be done, it will not be done by one person. So I really appreciate you taking the initiative to give all of us a voice to share what we know with the people that so we can work together to make a difference, because the work needs to be done. And man, I'm just glad that you see where the needs are, and you step up and decide that what, I'm going to play my part in the work that needs to be done. So man, thank you, not just for giving me the opportunity to share with your audience, but thank you for being the leader that you are and seeing where there is a need and step up to fulfill that need, man. So thanks again for being here with you to share.
Absolutely, I greatly appreciate that a whole lot. And just like you said, I saw the need, and I wanted to use my voice and my platform in the most positive way I knew how, and being able to impact change in our community, because the information that's being shown to us or being dispersed to us, it hits different when it's coming from people who look like us, right? It means more when you know that we come from similar backgrounds, whether we are here in the States or even in other parts of the world. The fact that we come from similar backgrounds, where we're not coming from much money and just socioeconomic backgrounds similar, we're able to identify what those issues are on an everyday basis and be able to come together to be monolithic in such a way that we're trying to construct some type of execution, some actionable items that we can actually execute in our everyday lives and make it applicable to everyone else who looks like us, to really impact, be that change that we want to see, and be an influence to our children and future grandchildren too. So man, I'm just one voice trying to do my part, man. I appreciate you.
And that's important, man. As you said, it's not really about us. We're the work that we're doing is for our children and our grandchildren, because someone before us did the work, so we can stand on their shoulders, to see further, to realize what is possible. Because if they didn't step up, most of what we have access to today may not be possible. So,
Absolutely.
we have an obligation to do our part and do it unapologetic, in making the progress that is needed, not just for us, because no one stays here forever, but we have a job to do, and we must do that work, and again, be unapologetic about it, so we can move the needle forward.
Absolutely, man. And so, without any further ado, let's just dive into it. I want to tell me a little bit about the efforts that the initiative that you're putting forth into right now. So, as an educator, and just the things that you've been doing, your many works of just want to rewrite the narrative about us Black men. Tell me a little bit about what those efforts consist of.
Well, I will start with saying, currently I'm also the director at Lincoln University, where the mentoring and tutoring director. So one, I work with students, to help them to see what's possible, to help them to realize that they have greatness in them despite where they're coming from. But outside of being on the school campus, my focus is to empower Black males, Black male students, and Black men overall, to rewrite the narrative. And I'm also really focusing on writing as many books as possible. Last year, I was able to reach number 29. I published 8 books last year. So my focus is really to empower and inspire simultaneously those who I come in contact with. But my focus is really on Black males, particularly because of how we are treated in society, and because of the limitations that have been put on us by society. And so I want to help to rewrite that narrative, not just by sharing the content itself, but by being the example of what is possible. For me, growing up in poverty in Jamaica, there are a lot of things that I didn't know that I would be able to achieve, to be honest with you, because I didn't start off, like someone who, from an academic standpoint, because I wasn't qualified to go to college. I didn't have the requirements to go to college. But I like to tell people, that, I went to college on grace. I came across the right people. God placed those people at the right point. And I started college, and I went there in Jamaica with the same mindset that I was an average person. And man, over time, on this journey, after I came here and became the top student on campus, starting to do well academically, I said, man, you know what? Society have told me a lie, that I couldn't be successful. I couldn't achieve on certain levels. So from there, man, I haven't turned back since. I started to ask myself even questions where that ability came from, not knowing the ability to do well was already within me. So that's one of the things that I focus on when it comes to the students, and when it comes to Black men or Black youth, males in particularly, that the ability to do great is in every one of us. We have the DNA of greatness, and that's what I share every single day.
Absolutely. And those words of affirmation is speaking volumes to many ears that you may not even realize, right? So that it's power in words, and those words are resonating with more people than you would ever know. And the fact that you're doing that and taking that initiative, and even based on your own upbringing, right? Because you talked about you being from Jamaica, which is crazy, because I recently I did a previous episode of the show talking to friends of mine who are from different parts of Africa, who share similar stories and backgrounds when it came down to the perception of what society had labeled us here in America versus what our perception was of them, and even in parts of Africa, right? So we have allowed society to dictate how we move, how we operate, how we respond and welcome each other so ignorantly to where now we're believing all these negative stereotypes that have been put on us as Black people in general, because Black is Black anywhere you go in the world. And
That's
so
right.
we have way more similarities than we do differences. It's not to say that we don't have any differences at all, but the similarities are more highlighted and should be more highlighted more because the shared experiences that we have should ultimately bring us together to be monolithic more than anything else. And so for your efforts to speak volumes in that way, it definitely resonates with me in such a way that, this is why I'm using this platform to be able to speak those words to us and encourage us and motivate us, especially as Black men. And I'm putting more responsibility on us as the future leaders and now the present leaders too for the moment in regards to what we need to be doing to help lead our communities and lead our families in the right direction. So I appreciate you for saying that. I know that what has been that response though in terms of just your following, the students that come up to you that you mentor and help guide in that way. What has typically been like the responses that you've got most from those young male students?
Well, man, the students received it well, I would say, because I have students that came to my office, and I recently shared about it, where because I don't really talk about the stuff that I'm doing outside of school on campus. So a lot of my students don't even know that I'm an author, right? So I brought 5 copies of my own books to in the office, and I put it on my desk because I know I was going to have an influx of students. So when one of the first male student that came to the office, and he started looking at the books, and then he saw my name, and he said, "Sir, is this your book?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Man, look, I've never met an author in my whole life." And he was like, "Man, this is like really, really inspiring."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I wrote 20, that time it wasn't 29 yet, but he said, man, this is amazing. This is like truly amazing. I didn't know that we could do this. This is what and not to say there are not a lot of Black males out there who have authored books, but he may not really get exposed to those individuals.
About the exposure. Absolutely.
So, and by him saying that, I know being in the environment in itself, is really important. It's really impactful, for the students, especially Black males or Black students who are coming from underserved communities. So, being received by the students, I would say, well, and I dress like this every day on campus. And and I tell people that it's not really about the suit itself, but it's to give the students, especially the male students, a different perception, or help them to see themselves through a different lens, see themselves through me, and see what's possible. So, man, I have students come up, these are adults, say, "Sir, man, I'll give suits away to students sometimes. Say, "Man, sir, I'm going to come looking like you tomorrow." So,
It's an
it's just,
inspiration though. Like, to hear that, it's resonating with them, right? So that means something.
oh yes, oh yes. So, man, I tell people every day, those remarks to me is more valuable than the paycheck. We need the money, of course, but those remarks are more valuable to me than the paycheck. The paycheck benefits me, but the work itself benefits them. And that's what it's about, because they are the ones that's going to be in the positions later to, lead a generation, to inspire, to empower those who are coming behind them. So again, we have an obligation. And that's how, my view and my perspective and my appearance on campus, I try my best to represent that. But as you said, how I received here, at first, not everybody are open to, you being Black. And sometimes when you are strong and about who you are, everybody don't receive you well. And sometimes your own Black people don't receive you how they should. Just because you're not acting as, passive, to say the least. When you don't act passive, people start to wonder who you are and be threatened by who you are. But I get to the point on my journey that doesn't really bother me. I'm going to show up as Richard Cross every single day. If you don't like me, it's not my business. My goal and responsibility is to be the best version of myself, because I have an obligation to lead the next generation, beyond the limitations, beyond the false narrative and the labels that have been placed on us.
Absolutely. And as an educator yourself, it's impactful to know that your words are going to speak much more volumes than it would a typical regular everyday person, right? Because you're in a position to shape minds and help reshape and create narratives about the students that you're basically assisting and giving education and knowledge to. So you want them to go off into the world feeling confident in themselves that they can achieve anything in life, especially those who look like us. We're coming from, and unfortunately, a lot of us share the most daunting reality that we share the most is coming from the socioeconomic detriment, right? So we're coming from low impoverished neighborhoods and impoverished neighborhoods where we don't see a lot of positiveness in there. Most of the time, the most positive things we see are mostly on TV or just every day. We may see drug dealers out making money, being flashy, being gaudy, and showing off cars and things like that. And we think that that's the image of what we should want to pursue and be like. Versus when we watch a TV show, emulating what a Black man or Black woman should look like and represent and exemplify. Now it's foreign to us, right? It almost looks so different to wait, I wasn't taught that. Or even something that you said about how a student came in there and said, wow, I've never met an author before. When in all actuality, he's probably met a couple of authors, just didn't realize that and didn't have that experience directly impacting him in such a way that he put the name with the face. He saw that book on the table, on the desk, and he saw you. It's like, okay, wait, this is him. So so you can do this? And being an author myself, I actually wrote and published my own poetry book several years ago. And my wife has been pushing me to get back on doing my writing because it was therapeutic for me in that way. But having that similar experience too with someone seeing my book on Amazon and being able to match it with me and say, hey, this is you wrote this. That's an inspiration. We can try to downgrade how inspirational it is, but to someone else that can mean the world to them because they see something now that they never thought was foreseen in their own future. Now they're seeing this as an added thing that they can actually do, because like you said, society has lied to them. Society has bamboozled them into thinking you can only do this and nothing else outside of that. When there are no limits to our talents and our gifts and our intelligence. And we should never let society label us or limit us in that regard in the first place. But that's impressive.
But you're right, because just letting them know where I started my journey and to the extent of my poverty that I was growing up with. And I share with them where I'm, where I'm at now. Man, some of those students can't believe. They said, how did you come out of that situation?
And that's what I want to talk about next. I want to bring that up. So just a quick interjection. Because you're such an inspiration to so many young men, we gotta go back to the beginning of this, right? Who and what inspired you to get to the place that you're at today, especially given the circumstances and the poverty that you were faced with living and being from Jamaica?
Who inspired me? To be honest with you, I will start with my mom, to be honest with you. I used to see my mom doing domestic work, like, cleaning churches, washing clothes for people, in the communities. And she went to work one day and she didn't get paid and she was there all day. And she got her lunch at work. She got her lunch maybe 12 o'clock. She came home maybe like 8 o'clock that evening. And she had that one lunch that she got. And that's what we eat that night, me and my sisters and her. Well, actually, she didn't eat anything. She shared it out amongst us. We eat it and look across, and she was kind of crying, just because she couldn't afford certain things, right? And even though, to be honest with you, and this is kind of hard right now, she didn't, you know, just seeing the situation at that moment, and even though I didn't know how I was going to change my situation, I decided that, I have to be the one to change my circumstances. I wasn't doing well academically, so I didn't see a way out as someone who's going to go to college and become successful. None of that I could see because my grades weren't reflecting that. But I made a vow that day when, she explained, and man, she said, this is, that I got it 12 o'clock today, but I know we weren't going to have anything to eat. And she sharing it out. And, just in that moment, I say, you know what, Cross, how are you going to change this? But things have to change. And things didn't really look like it was going to change, to be honest with you. But I kept going, and I kept believing that, something could change. And I was an athlete in school, one of the best athletes in high school. And, we were at a poor school, so I don't get the exposure like some people. So I didn't get to perform on the big stages so people could see me. But I still kept believing that I could change the situation, knowing that, man, I didn't have no way of changing this situation, to be honest with you. And, I just kept going and kept going and kept believing, and graduated, didn't have no subjects to go to college. But someone in my community, said, man, I believe that you can be successful. Man, that was foreign to me, and, they put me on a path. I joined this youth service. From there, things started to change. And I kind of skip out a lot of the parts of my story of where it started from. But and how things were, that kind of opened the door to my possibilities, and from there things start to change. But it was that night when, just looking at her crying because she couldn't, and it was several times, man, because I had to go and do domestic work with my mom several times. I used to hate it, because the work was so hard, and we were there some days, man, we didn't have no lunch. We were there all day working, no lunch. And sometimes we glad when it's fruit season, because in some of those locations, they have fruits on the trees, so that's what we'd eat all day whilst working. So people see me today, man, they think the journey was easy. It was difficult. It was hard. And why it was so hard, I didn't see how I was going to get out. I didn't see what would change. I had to believe and hope that things would change, but I didn't see how, because, I didn't really have relatives that I know of that are in position to help get me out of that situation. But, I was an athlete, and I kept running and I kept running. People thought I was crazy because my school couldn't afford certain things. So I'm just running in vain. That's what they thought. But fast forward, graduated from high school. I didn't get any real scholarship for track. I kept running, became a police officer. Actually, I went to college, but I went to college on grace because I wasn't qualified to go to college, and I didn't get a job as a teacher or a coach. And then I joined the police force, and I kept running and I kept running. So it was 6 years after high school, I got a track and field scholarship. Someone said, man, why did you continue running for 6 years? Because I had hope that, things could change. Although being a police officer, things started to change. from a financial standpoint, because I was in the position at that time to start, helping my mom, my dad, and stuff like that, giving them money. And because money, could kind of alleviate some of the stress. But I would still run, I would train every day. And I was at the Miami Classics, representing the Jamaica Police Constabulary Force, and a coach saw me, and he went there to recruit a young man that was in high school, and I beat that guy that day. And he asked me if I want a scholarship. I said, man, that would be a joy to get the scholarship, because that's something that I wanted like 6 years ago. And he said, man, I can give you a scholarship. And then he asked me how old I was. And I said, man, I'm 24. He said, man, I'm sorry, you're too old. I can't give you the scholarship again, because you did very well, but you're too old. And he was walking away from me. And I said, and I shouted to him, I said, coach, if you want to know what someone does with an opportunity, give it to me. And he stopped and said, see me after the track meet. And the rest was history. He gave me the opportunity to come here. And, whilst here in the States, man, things started to change, maybe because of the environment, or because I decided I'm going to take this opportunity seriously. And, academically, things change like 360. I became the top student on campus with the highest GPA as a student athlete, for someone who have done very poorly academically, growing up. But, I think more so, I didn't really have any real examples of, what being academically inclined would be or look like. And I didn't have anyone really to encourage me. I could do whatever I want. It's not to say, but in those situations, you don't have like, I'm not saying you have poor parents that, encourage students. My mom encouraged me, and they did what they could, but I didn't see no way that education was going to help me. So maybe that was one of the reasons why because how is this going to help me? I can't buy the books that I need. So how is this going to help me? So, that was it for me growing up, but coming here, man, things change. End up graduating college, my first degree here in 3 years. And a lot of people was like, man, that's, how did you do that? But, a different mindset.
Absolutely.
So the mindset changed when I came here, and, man, I haven't looked back since.
Listen, man, that's a very inspiring story, and one that most of us, unfortunately, do share the sentiment of, right? So you and I definitely have a similar background when it comes to that. So obviously, I grew up, I didn't have my father around. My mom worked tirelessly and worked very hard to provide for me and my brother. And then she ultimately started taking care of 2 of her younger sisters, and then eventually had to take care of her 2 younger sisters and their children too. So, being in a 2-bedroom apartment that, we all had to, do, try to like contribute some type of way. I've been working since I was 14 years old. And a lot of those times I was working to help, pay certain bills, even in the house with my mom. So trying to take some pressure off of the responsibilities she had to deal with as a parent, as a mother, taking care of, her own kids, and just sometimes I would do it without her knowing about it, right? And then just so I can kind of just remove that particular responsibility off the list. But and just listening to your story, I can tell that when you were running for more reasons than one. That was an outlet for you. Yeah. That you were running to mentally run away from those issues, but not necessarily running away. But you was getting away from it in that moment in time. You were free from those responsibilities, free from those detrimental effects or events that took place in your life that was going on at the time, and just free from responsibilities to those situations that you had to deal with, because you had tunnel vision. You was just wanting to just run, and it was therapeutic to you, and it got you away in those moments and times as a way of it being your outlet. So
And and I'm glad you will say that, because truly that was it, really.
yeah,
Because the school that I went to, the high school, just to look back on those days, there are many days, man, I was the only one out there training. And it's not because I really loved it, but just the perspective that you just brought up, it gave me a space to don't worry about not going home and not going to have anything to eat. So the longer I stay out and doing something that's not getting me in trouble, the better it is for me. So I would, after school, I would train for like 2 hours before I go home. You see what I'm saying? Just because I know some days I'm going to go home and there is no meal to eat. You see what I'm saying? And that was how hard it was at times. And now I really appreciate the struggles because it really strengthened me. But back then, man, I used to even curse at God, and I said, man, why am I going through this? My neighbors have food, my neighbors have all the things they need. And but I just didn't understand why that situation was so hard growing up. But now, man, I think, have been prepared, for my role on this journey.
yeah.
But that was it, man. I'll be there train. I'll train in the morning and in the evening, knowing my school ain't gonna take me nowhere, because we didn't have the luxury to go to major championship, but I would still train as if I was like a professional athlete, morning and evening, every day.
The thing about it too is that most of our success, our successful people, that success came with a price. That success came from an abundance of pain and suffrage that we were dealing with in those moments of time. Whether you were in the States, whether you were in Jamaica or in different parts of Africa, those humble beginnings all ideally look the same when it comes to what pushed us and motivated us, which is what that inner strength that comes from within us. It comes from a matter of, okay, I have no other choice but to do this, because if I don't do anything else, I'm going to do this much. I'm going to accomplish this goal, and I'll see where it takes me. Once I accomplish this, once I obtain this goal, I can move forward on the next thing. And once you compile enough goals and enough executable goals that you have successfully achieved, now the sky's the limit. Now you look back on it and say, wait, I did all of that in this time span. Wait, when did I even have time to do that? Or where did I get this motivation and encouragement from? And you can find some of the smallest things that motivate you and encourage you, as well as the greater things that obviously impact you in those immediate moments in time, like not being able to have food on the table, and or not being able to have lights or clean water to drink from, or clean water to bathe. And I know what that was like growing up too, even in the States. Those types of situations humbled me so much to where I knew no one was just going to save me from this. I had to make the choice
Yeah.
to get myself out of it. And as much as I can, once I'm out of this, because it's self-preservation, once I'm out of this, now I got to bring others with me. It's my duty and my obligation to actually help save someone from themselves going on the same path, because not everyone's going to be able to receive these experiences the same way. We can have the same pair of glasses on and be looking at it from completely different viewpoints. So, and it can impact us in such a way that the way you respond to it may not look the same as the way someone else responds to it. This is about your mental capacity. It's about your mental strength and how you're able to respond. Right? I learned this over my lifespan of time. I'm 38 now. So you're either going to defeat it or it's going to defeat you.
That's
You
right.
can't. There's no both. There's no gray area. There's no middle ground. You have to defeat this, and not or it's going to defeat you. You have to make that choice. We have to make those conscientious choices as individuals to say, hey, I am not going to let this define me, and this is not going to continuously be my life from this point on. And if I have any power say so in any how this shit plans out, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change this for my family too. And Lord willing, they're here to see and be able to reap the benefits of what my successes have brought me, because my successes aren't just my own. And we have to keep constantly reminding our young Black men of that. When you achieve something, this is not just your accomplishment.
Yeah.
This is for everyone who has poured into you, everyone who has supported you, and everyone who has contributed to your life some kind of way, to some sort of capacity. You have to be able to say, you know what, I heard what you said, because I move in that I move in that way. I stayed in touch with a lot of my elementary school teachers, one of which passed away recently. But before she passed away, I got a chance to tell her, thank you for all of what you poured into me, even when I didn't see this in myself at the time. As I got older, I started to say, you know what, she was right. And having those being able to have those conversations with them and say, you know what, I remember you said this. I get it now. I hear you now. And it took for life to happen to me for me to get it. And for some people it does. But also, obviously for some people too, you can learn vicariously through someone else's experience. We don't have to experience things full force, in real time on our own, just to understand what the outcome is going to be.
That's
We,
right.
we, we sometimes think we're so unique and different that, oh, well, this ain't gonna happen to me. Well, what makes you so special? What makes you think that this same negative outcome won't impact you or won't happen to you the same way it happened to someone else who looks like you? Why go down this path and even experience that? Why even want to touch on what this is gonna happen? Because again, the way it affects me may not be the same way it affects you. For some of us, that strong will isn't quite there for all of us initially. Some of us have just naturally strong will to overcome things. But in some of us, we need someone else to be our what's the word?
Accountability partner.
Absolutely. We need someone to be that crutch for us to lean on and say, hey, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but you motivate me, or you're pushing me, or you're supporting me. That support group or that support person, if you will, helping you get through these situations, man, because not every situation is measured the same way, and not everyone responds to it the same way. I
Well,
appreciate even you saying
oh yeah, man. That's again, sometimes the journey itself prepares us. But I like what you said, man. There are certain experiences that you don't have to experience yourself. We can learn from others, and not just how they deal with the struggles, but how they overcome and achieve some of those situations. But we should be always open to learn from others, and there are reasons why someone else get to experience something and you don't have to, because you may, as you said, you may not be strong enough to go through that which the person went through, but be open enough to learn from that person. Because who to say, you having the same experience or put yourself in that position, you may not be able to overcome it. So seeing what the person have gone through can help you to say, you know what, that's not what I want to do. I'm not going to do that. Why should I want to bring myself through those situations, especially unnecessarily, just to say, I'm going to see if I can do it. But if it's not going to be beneficial, man, sometimes, you just got to see that how it affected that person and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that.
Another thing I want to transition to really quick too, in terms of being able to understand how our upbringing and our past affects us, and it impacts us in such a way that it shapes us to being the men that we are today. And just those words of affirmation that you talked a little bit about, and how we're just telling ourselves, it starts with self, right? Before
Yeah.
anybody else can tell you, you got to be able to tell yourself, I can do this. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be hard. You got to be real with yourself too now.
Correct.
It's going to be nothing is nothing that comes right or comes free, or it's going to come easy, right? Nothing that you actually want in life that's going to require hard work and dedication to, it's not going to come easy. And no one is born everyone is not born with silver spoon in their mouth. So given the facts that we have two X's already marked on us, we're at a disadvantage. But don't let that disadvantage be something that hinders you from even gaining advantages over it, right? So we got to be able to tell ourselves that, and be able to pour into each other, telling each other that too, because hearing it from each other means so much too. Now we have healthy competition of like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to do this. I can do this. So we're going to put together a situation where we're competing against each other, but in a healthy way, because neither one of us is going to lose, because we're both gaining in the areas that we're striving to be in. And
That's
so
right.
that has to resonate with more times than not. It has to resonate with all of us than it does. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of
But before you go, from that point that you just made about the healthy competition and stuff like that. I remember when I was in, and this has been me for as long as I can remember. I wasn't really aware of how important it is, but when I was in grade 8, I got promoted and to in ninth grade. So my neighbor, she was already in the upper 8th grade. So I went into the 9th grade to meet, in her class. So whilst in the class, and because I know her, I came first in my 8th grade. She came first, but she was in a higher class, like the brighter students. So I get to join her with the brighter students. And she said, man, I'm going to come first. In my class, I said, nope, you're not going to come first. You're going to come second. So be it, I came first, she came second, but we both got promoted to a higher class. But, I always have that type of desire to, have this healthy competition, with the people around me without being intimidated by what they're doing, and I've always been a person who have been really honest with myself. I'm going to look at myself first and see what I need to do. At times, we lie to ourselves because sometimes we know what not to do, because we become aware of what we're not supposed to do, but we go against that which we already know. But back to your point, man, I always have that healthy competition type of attitude, especially amongst the people around me. I wasn't going to hate them for what they're doing. I don't know if they hate me, but I'm not going to hate you. I'm just trying to be better and just use your energy to actually as motivation, so I can be a better person. And that's who I have been all my life. So
yeah, and that's the energy that's transferable, right? That's supposed to be the energy that motivates you, because it's like, guess what? There's no losers in this situation, right?
no,
We have to get into this. We have to get out of this mental space that one person's failures is another person's success. No, there's room for all of us to succeed
that's
in
right.
every capacity that we dreamed of being in. So I would have to fail just for you to succeed. Your failure or my failures is not your success.
No,
We have to get to that place where it's not so many barrels of so many crabs. We
that's
have to
right.
eventually graduate to being sharks, all sharks in the same ocean, right? We're all feasting, we're all eating. It's room for all of us to achieve every single goal that's out there for us. I watched this video of Kevin Hart talking about like the healthy competition he has with The Rock, right? So Dwayne Johnson. So he and Dwayne Johnson have been really good friends. They've done a ton of movies together, had tremendous success in their own rights, right?
Yeah,
And so The Rock has his own, I think, wine or tequila. Kevin Hart has his own tequila. Kevin Hart promotes Dwayne Johnson's wine or tequila too, and it's just as well as Dwayne Johnson supports and promotes Kevin Hart. He said, "Listen, the one thing about it is his tequila, his tequila can taste better than mine, but guess what? It doesn't mean that he has the only tequila that's out there, and vice versa. There's room for in this space for us both to be successful. And guess what we're both doing? We're both competing and supporting each other at the same time. We don't have to be. It don't have to be a one-off. You don't have to be just one person on top of the mountain while everyone else is at the bottom. It doesn't have to be that way, and we have to change our mindset into thinking that only one person can be at the top. We all can in our own right, and we
yeah,
can all be successful in different aspects and avenues of the same space. But we have to be able to compete, have a healthy competition that motivates us and strive to still achieve our own goals and successes. But it starts with the mindset. It starts at home. We have to be able to tell our kids, guess what? Just because you're competing against each other don't mean that one person has to lose and the other one has to win. Venus and Serena compete all the time, but guess what? They're both winners, regardless of who wins that Wimbledon or wins that trophy at that given moment in time. You know why? Because they're the best at what they do in that particular space. No,
Yes,
it's no one else that comes close, especially when they're playing with each other against other competition.
that's
They're
right.
they're they're knocking it out the water, man. They're killing the competition in such a way that they have left a really lengthy space between them and the runner up or the second place person, right? They have motivated themselves to be the best version of themselves because they have it in them to do that. And we have to start with the internal core of ourselves and saying, I can do this. And guess what? You see somebody else who looks like you in the same space? Guess what? I'm going to support you. Listen, you're not going to stop me from being successful just because you're in the same space I'm in. We
That's
got to
right.
be able to motivate each other in that way. So that's something that has to constantly, we have to constantly remind ourselves of that. And so that what you said resonated with me in that way that I had to touch bases on that. So the other question I had for you, because you also have your own magazine, and I read this, and it's called the Black Male Impact Magazine. Tell me about this magazine and what it consists of, and what message that you're sending out throughout not only just your books but the magazine as well.
Well, I haven't made the magazine available yet, but I started the Black Male Impact, which is currently on YouTube, where my goal is to share stories and insights and perspectives from Black men. Because one thing, the magazine idea, because I normally go to stores and buy magazines, and I like Success magazine, but when I look on the magazines themselves, and the magazine will be coming out this year. I didn't know that you were going to share that, but I haven't shared that it was going to be available yet. I was going to share maybe around February that it will be available. But when I look on the magazines, I barely see positive images of Black men, professional Black men, because that's what I'm focusing on. Because if we're going to change the narrative, if we're going to inspire the next generation, they have to see who they can be by seeing us. It's easier to become what you see. So the goal of the Black Male Impact magazine, or the Black Male Impact, which is now on YouTube for the past couple months, have been, around sharing the insights, ways to become successful from Black men themselves who are currently professionals. And one thing that I've found since I started this journey, there were many Black men who have PhDs, who are superintendents and presidents. When I started searching, man, I was shocked. I didn't know, because this, that's not something that we see a lot or hear about. So that's what the Black Male Impact is about, to highlight Black male professionals out there who are committed to making a difference, from, in education, from finance, from wealth creation, from technology, different spaces. Because if we don't expose the next generation to what we have accomplished, some will not know what we are doing.
Absolutely. You know what? And being on this platform, I've had the luxury and pleasure to talk with many Black men who are in these different professions and sectors. I would definitely, love to, get you guys connected so you can actually talk to them, preferably in these areas, because I've had a fraternity brother of mine who's on the show talk about finances and talk about different stocks and how to invest in their money and things like that, and how we can go about being a part of the stock market and taking advantage of the different things that we can obviously invest in, and the different shares that we can buy and make lucrative returns on. So being able to, and I've even had my former professor at my alma mater on the show too, to talk about the differences between being an African American, and then being a Black person in America, in terms of being from different parts of the world, like Jamaica, like Africa. Obviously, my guests at the time were, one of them was from Ghana, another one was from Nigeria, and so having them talk about the different experiences that they've dealt with coming into the States, and what the perception was, prior to their arrival here in the States. It resonated with me in such a way that, for far too long we've let too many other people outside of us control the narrative and control the stigma of what Black images are supposed to look like, what Black success looks like, what Black excellence really is. You know what I mean? So we want to be able to continue our efforts in making sure that we're pumping out the right information and positive images of people who look like us, because whether great or small, people are inspiration to all of us who are in these different professions, representing not just themselves, they're representing us too, because we're out to show society, hey, you're not the only ones that can do this. We can do this too. Quite frankly, we can do this better than you all can. And it's not to be boastful, it's not to be arrogant about it, but it's being realistic about this, right? So because of the amount of motivation, the amount of work ethic that we have, quite frankly, again, I'm not anti anything, but I'm pro-Black, I'm pro-us.
Yeah.
And I know from first experiences, no one has that girth or that motivation and that strength within us to actually overcome so many different things of adversity that we've had to overcome in our lives, to be able to still succeed despite all our limitations in terms of what's been put in front of us to stop us or hinder us from getting to that point. Like, we've had a lot of delays, we've had a lot of hindrances, but guess what? We still found ways to break through those walls and those barriers to still get to a place of where we are successfully, and look back on it and say, listen, I came from nothing and this is where I am now. Don't tell me this ain't possible. I know if I can do this, I know good and damn well you can, because I'm not special. I just had that motivation and encouragement. I had that hope, that optimism to say, I am going to make a choice to change my surrounding, change my situation for the better. Because I know I have to. No one else is going to change this for me. I have to do this for me first, so that I can motivate others to do it for themselves thereafter.
That's right. And as you said, we can do it, and we have done it. But in truth and fact, our journey didn't start as how they showed it to us, where as if we started of slavery where we didn't have anything, and we have to pull ourselves up from slavery. We were kings and queens prior to, before all of that. A lot of things that society learned, they learned from us. So innately, we have been great a long time ago. We have been so great that they have to learn from us. So it's just to get back to that memory of who we are. And once we get back to that memory, man, anything is possible. And we have been told that we are lazy. We have been told that we're all this type of stuff, all these different labels. And yes, for some of us, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because we buy into the false narrative. But for some of us, we realize that, no, that's not true. Then we get exposed to more information and more information. And that's why the information has been suppressed. No other reasons than to keep us away from knowing what we are capable of. And once we realize, man, that we are capable, man, we become powerful beyond measure. And and that's where we are. And that's what we're trying to do, to get those who are still unaware of what we are capable of, to become aware. And I came across a quote back in 2013 or 14 when I just started teaching. And I think it was from a professor at Morehouse, if I'm not mistaken. He said, the conscious have to help the unconscious to become conscious. So
Absolutely.
once we become aware of what we're capable of doing and achieving, it's now on us to help those who don't realize yet that they have in them what it takes to achieve whatever goals they have. So the conscious should help the unconscious to become conscious.
I'm listen, I'm going to use that quote for this episode. That's going to be the core quote for this episode. The conscious has to help the unconscious become conscious. That
That's
is,
right.
man, that is so powerful, man. Like we have it in us. It's in every last one of us to be the best version of ourselves. We just, some of us more times than not just need an extra motivator. We need someone pulling it out of us. But some of us, we're self-starters. Some of us can actually just move on our own pace, right? We don't need anyone to kind of help boost us, but we may need it later on, right? Versus some, all they need is the starting point. Once they get that starting point, they're taking off from there. And right then and there, man, is what really resonates with me such a way that I understand what the obligation that each and every one of us have. We have to be motivators of each other. We have to create this positive environment for us to actually grow from. We have to be able to be monolithic in such a way that we know there's room for all of us to win and be out here and be successful. It is. We just have to put the work in. The
That's
work and
right.
dedication, it has to be there. And again, I live my life. My favorite word is ambition. Now I had to get it tattooed on me because I wake up every morning and look at that on my arm and see I'm very ambitious. I know
That's
what I
right.
want out of life, and I know what it's going to take for me to get to it. And so I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be, so that I can help motivate someone else, even take it further than where I'm taking it. And that's the end goal for all of us, and that's what I want to see all of us doing collectively as a
Well,
people, as a culture.
oh yeah, man. And again, it becomes easier.
Yeah,
Once we step up and be the best version of ourselves,
yeah,
others gonna see through us, man. That man, look, Marlon is doing this thing. So man, you know what? I can do it. And I tell you, when I decided I was going to teach, man, the person that recruits me from Jamaica, he was teaching. I said, man, you're teaching. Man, I can teach too.
yes,
So, so I was like, again, it's that kind of competition now.
yep,
Again, I'm not envious of him teaching, but I was like, man, he's doing it. He's from Jamaica too.
yep.
So it's become like a
Representation.
motivation.
Yep.
Oh yeah, man, it's like motivation. I said, man, you know what? Let me go in the classroom too. And I went in the classroom, fell in love with it because I wasn't thinking about becoming a teacher. I didn't even know if I could teach. I didn't know if I had no ability to teach, although I graduated from college.
Yeah.
Because I thought teaching was something different. But just seeing my brother from Jamaica that recruited me, I said, man, you teaching those kids, man, I think I'm going to try this thing out. And, I tried it, really loved it, because then I started to really realize that I was connecting with students who shared my experience, who didn't have certain things, who were told they couldn't. And I said, man, you guys remind me of me. So I'm going to give you all everything that I become aware of. So my class is more so a motivational class. It doesn't matter what I'm teaching.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring out the best in my students. I'm telling them every
Mhm.
day. I,
Yeah.
I I just read one of my reviews. One of the students said, man, he tell us every day that we can do great. you know,
Listen,
uh,
that constant reminder, after a while, listen, habits become lifestyles, right? So it
yes,
takes
sir.
21 days to develop a habit, and that habit becomes your lifestyle. Now it's something you do that second language you don't even think about. So when it's positive, oh, the possibility is endless. So now you constantly being told that you have greatness in you and you have greatness to display out of you. Guess what? Now you're starting to believe that because you've heard it so much that now nothing else outside of that matters because this is what's been told to you consistently enough. You bought into that agenda. You bought into that premise. Now it's
Mhm.
all about acting it out and being exactly what's been told to you all along. But look at you, black man. You're an educator. You've written 5 books. You are motivated and inspiring young black men to be the better version of themselves, whether internal and external. And when I say external, I'm talking about the whole suit game too. Listen, I love wearing suits all the damn time. If it was up to me, I would probably wear it at least 3 to 5 days out of the week. But because of the pandemic, I'm just now being able to start back going to different events and being able to put suits on. And it makes me feel good because I've grown up. My mom used to put me and my brother in suits all the time. My brother, God rest his soul, he eventually got tired of wearing suits, and I just grew more into it, right? So it's like now you can't keep me out of a suit when the time permits that, right? But it's not about the suit itself; it's about the man in the suit. And I remember reading this quote from Tom Ford that said, "A well-dressed man shows a great deal of good manners. It shows that you care enough about your image to where you're going to present yourself in the best light you can possibly." So that's internal and external. If you're a smart person, look the part, right? You're an intelligent black man. You want to look like you're an intelligent black man. You want to look like you belong because you know you do. You feel that you belong. So guess what? It's time to show and display that. And that's what this is all about, man. Impacting the black man, being encouraging them and just bestowing words of affirmation to each and every one of our young black men coming up and letting them know, not just verbally, but just showing them too, because our young people, they don't just listen to just words. Words aren't enough for them. They need to see these things being displayed and these things coming to fruition in front of them. Because now it's like, okay, he said that and he's doing it. All right. And now I know I can do it now. So, because no, it's not easy, but as time gets better, the more you practice, the more you get better at it, the easier it becomes. And the more challenging you can push yourself to be when it comes to, all right, I attained this goal. Now it's time for the next goal. You never stop achieving goals because there's always something else left after the goal you're currently working to achieve.
Well, that's right. And you said one thing where it doesn't really get easier, really, but the more you challenge yourself, and the better you get at whatever you are trying to do. So we have to be willing to just challenge, ourselves and be that example, and not just, it's not really just about the suit itself. It's you modeling whatever you're sharing with, the people who are watching. Because and what I was trying to get to is where, you sharing that the journey itself is not easy, because they see the words, they see you dress up and stuff like that, so they may think it's easy. But when you get to share that, this takes effort, this takes discipline, this takes commitment to make it look like it's easy, then they start to understand, oh, you got to put in some effort, because people will see, you showing up, people will see your commitment, and they don't know, what it takes, to maintain whatever you started. So it's always good to, sometimes share, those parts of the story where, man, it's tough some days. It's where I have to force myself to do what I said I was going to do. But because I said I was going to do it, I'm not going to go without doing it.
Absolutely. Listen, you never start something you can't finish. And we know in life, people oftentimes, they judge the performance on stage, but they don't even see or understand the work behind the curtain.
That's
Right.
right.
So being able to see what I displayed, that's easy. That's fine. But what it took for me to get here, right? This was not instantaneous. And so many of our young people have these instantaneous thoughts that it's supposed to happen right away. Like, no, listen, you got to get carried before you crawl. You got to crawl before you walk. It's levels to this. You got to be able to put in the time, the effort, the commitment, and the work in order to really appreciate what the results are thereafter. And if you're not putting your whole heart into it, your whole 100% into it, you're only going to get out what you put into it. And we
That's
have to
right.
be able to constantly remind them of that, man. So again, man, I appreciate you so much for being on here. This has been impactful and motivational even to me. And I'm hoping my listeners as well, because again, information that's being dispersed out to us from people that look like us, it hits different. It's much more impactful and it resonates more with us when we can see ourselves in those same scenarios, because a lot of us come from these same situations. So keep doing what you're doing, brother. I'm definitely going to be in contact with you again to have you on the show again. To expound on it, because situations like this is continuous. We have to
Oh yeah.
continue on pushing that information. The premise of this, the narrative has to be rewritten. The
Yes,
only
sir.
way it can be rewritten is if we pick up that damn pen and paper and rewrite it ourselves, and not allow someone else, like society, dictate what our moves are every day.
That's
Again,
right, man.
being on the
I
show.
Yeah, I'm available, man. Whenever the time permits, and you can just reach out to me, and I'm willing to share, man. Man, as you can see, I share the content every day. So people say,
Yep, absolutely.
man, you share more than what 10 people share together.
Yep,
So I'm always open to share, man, because especially if I learn something, I want to share it, because
yep.
it don't make sense we keep it in us. The whole purpose of learning is to share and help others. So, man,
That's what
whenever,
education is. Education is shared knowledge, right?
yes,
So
sir, yes,
once I
sir,
learn it, I got to teach it to someone else now. So, and not keeping it for myself, because now I'm doing a disservice to those who don't know, who need to know, right? So
that,
that
that's
makes
right.
perfect sense, man. So again, man, listen, we definitely gonna be talking a lot more, in the future, and just continue on with this effort of pumping out positivity into our Black men, and just giving out words of affirmation, because we know we need it more now than ever. We live in a society that's still telling us, hey, you're not worthy of these accomplishments or these successes that you want to achieve in life. And when we say damn to all that, damn to all that, yes, we do. Yes, we are, and yes, we are capable of accomplishing these goals. And we're going to push each other and motivate each other and hold each other accountable to making sure we're on top of these goals that we're setting for ourselves. So, again,
Yes,
man, I
sir.
appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe to this episode, man. This is a great, very informative and impactful episode that you don't want to miss. As long as along with previous other episodes that I've put out as well. Continue on, Richard, man, for everything that you're doing. Many mad kudos and respect to what you're doing, man. Your efforts is not going in vain. You're definitely impacting so
Thanks.
many lives, man, and just continue to do what you do, man. And excuse me, I'm definitely going to be supporting you in that effort to making sure I'm putting out that same content and sharing your impacts and goals and things that you're doing out there as well. Appreciate that, man.
Oh, man, thanks for having me.
All right, I'll be definitely keeping in touch with you soon.
Yes, sir.
If you like what you've heard from this week's episode and would like to hear more from previous episodes, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel below. You can also find me on social media platforms at Speak to the Mic _podcast show on Instagram and Speak to the Mic podcast show on Facebook. Be sure to also like, share, and subscribe to my Spotify page at Speak to the Mic podcast show. As I put out more thought-provoking content, your opinion and thoughts are needed and appreciated. I thank you all in advance for your support and look forward to hearing from you soon.